Geo Hacks, and today we're gonna be doing um another OS top 10 uh web vulnerability, and today we're gonna be looking into what an SSRF attack is. So first of all, what is an SSRF attack? So what an SSRF attack is a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to induce the server-side application to make HTTP requests to an arbitrary domain of the attacker's choosing. So basically, an SSRF attack is um, a web security vulnerability that which allows an attacker to lead the server-side application to make a HTTP request to an arbitrary domain of the attacker's choosing. So this arbitrary domain could be like a malicious site, download something and it'll execute stuff like that. So this is really a big vulnerability, but not commonly found. So um, second of all, we can I looked up some bug bounties of this SSRF attack because this is a really uncommon bug. It's really hard to find some bug bounties. But I found a pretty major Google Cloud project bug bounty. So a researcher by the name of David Schutz found a SSRF bug in a internal GCP in an internal Google Cloud project. Basically, he could access resources and run arbitrary code through a proxy. Check out the link in the description for more details. So I put a link in the description to this blog. It's pretty hard to explain, but if you go in there and read it yourself, you would understand it much more better than how I'm saying it. So check it out in the link in the description. And now we can go ahead and do our demo. So I just navigated over application 260. I'll also leave this in the link in the description, and just go hover over this play demo button and just go into the OS top 10 for web. And here we see loads of options. Just click on the capital 1 SSRF. Okay, so this server-side request forgery. We can just read this real quick. The following interactive tutorial is reconstructed of Capital One's data breach incident that exposed the records of 106 million customers. Paige Thompson is accused of breaking into Capital One server, gaining access to 140,000 social security numbers, 1 million Canadian social insurance members, and 880,000 bank account numbers. For the remainder of this excerpt, we'll refer to the organization impacted as Capital One and the threat actor as Bob. Okay, second, the vulnerability. Based on a report on Curbs on Security, the attacker exploited the server-side request forgery (SSRF) vulnerability to access AWS cloud endpoints. SSRF vulnerabilities are most commonly encountered in functionalities associated with PDF generation, generate PDF reports, credit card statements, file uploading scanned documents, image files, etc. Bob begins by loading the Capital 10 website in his browser. So we can just quickly copy that and paste that. Just hit enter, and just saying we can just copy with this username and just this password. I'm just logging into the server right now. So attack service mapping is the process of analyzing an application's core functionality, business logic, and a control flow to identify potential inputs or vectors through which an attacker could try to enter an application environment. Having successfully logged in, Bob begins his analysis by browsing the Capital 10, mapping the application's key features and services. So we just click on the more services. Basically what we're trying to do is just analyze what are the key features of this company capital 10 and this website, and change card image. On this notice we can do the credit card, and this notice we can change the card image service, which allows us to personalize the debit card by uploading personal photos or custom images. So I'm pretty sure it just said in the vulnerability section, this one, not this one, I guess. And attack surface, background, attack surface, login, change card, I guess. I don't know, but I think that Ssrf is mostly done by, I guess, uploading files and then PDFs and then stuff like that, generating PDFs and stuff. So this is where the exploitation comes in hand. So we can just press change the card number, change the card image, and just drag this mountain.png here, and we can just press upload and preview. And preview the image. As expected, the file now is uploaded and rendered by the image preview widget. Yeah, so we can here. Bob further analyzes the preview widget URL below the map parameter value pair. So this is the preview widget URL below, and then this, and then I just really S3 bucket. So we know this is running on AWS. Just stored, and yeah, you notice an S3 bucket URL being passed as an input parameter to the preview applet. Just click next, and Ssrf 1. Having analyzed the preview URL and the card builder functionality, Bob attempts to modify the original URL by replacing the S3 bucket link with a following URL. Basically what he's trying to do right now is by replacing the S3 bucket URL up here, he's changing it to a cat memes URL. So just extract and just copy paste, and we see it's loaded, and we can just press enter, and we see that we have got the cat memes. If this is an actual website, I can go on it and see if that is. And I don't think that's a real website, but we see it's cats and stuff like that, and that's basically a cat image. And Ssrf 2, interesting, by simply changing the AWS S3 bucket link to a different URL resource, Bob manages to trick the preview applet into fetching and loading in an external image resource. It is important to note that Capital 10 application server made the HTTP request to fetch the image URL rendered the image. This ability to manipulate a web application into sending unauthorized requests to a third-party site or resource is known as server-side request forgery. So this is where it couldn't get malicious, because we can just put any malicious link in this and it'll try to go access it, and we can do malicious things with that, so like get a reversal and stuff like that. We can just click next. And now we're in the backend code. So the backend code, before Bob proceeds with the exploitation of the Ssrf vulnerability, let's take a quick look at the Card Design Studio's backend applet code. This backend applet code is just like the code behind the Card Design Studios. And here we can just analyze the code to see what's actually triggering this as a Ssrf, I guess. The document preview method is used for rendering and the uploaded image file. So this method is used to upload the image file. The method extracts the pre-signed S3 bucket URL passed via URL parameter and assigns it to the query string variable. And so basically what it's doing, so basically whatever is in the URL, it's going to store in the query string, and the URL parameter query string is then passed as an argument to the storage service.load method. and which is responsible for downloading the preview image from the S3 bucket. So this URL is passed to the storage service load, and it's going to go access this link, and it's going to download it, and it's going to preview it. So finally, the load method invokes Java's HTTP GET function to retrieve the image file. Unfortunately, no input validation checks are being performed on the request parameter URL, allowing Bob to control the loading of the arbitrary's URL via HTTP GET method. So just getting the HTTP thing, and it's just going to load the image in. We can just hit next right here, and we see that we can just some AWS metadata endpoint, so we can read this real quick. Although SSRF issues may appear to pose a limited risks, attackers can get creative with these vulnerabilities to make requests to non-public URLs that may expose sensitive data. One such service commonly exploited by attackers in the third-party cloud environment is REST-based web services known as cloud meta endpoints. If configured, a metadata endpoint provides programmatic access to a cloud server system configuration, networking details, authentication, and access keys, etc. Bob attempts to gain access to capital 10's metadata endpoint by submitting the URL, by submitting the following AWS metadata URL. So basically, we just need to delete that and just paste this, and we can just do we can just hit enter. And we see we have a bunch of sensitive data here. AWS metadata endpoint 2. Success by passing the AWS metadata URL as an argument to the URL, the URL parameter URL. Bob managed to retrieve all categories of instance metadata associated with capital 10 web server. So we've got all of the metadata of the instance on what's running and stuff. So this is really nice sensitive data for an attacker. Listing IMA roles. Bob proceeds with enumerating the IMA roles that may be configured for the capital 10 web server by making the following requests to the security credentials endpoint. I think this is going to give, I guess, the credentials for some of the IMA roles. And we just see there's a listing IMA roles. The time of the metadata request made by Bob returns one single role, ISRM WAF role, which is associated with the web server instance. So just a IMA role here. Press next, and stealing the IMA role credentials. Having identified the instance role name ISRM WAF role, Bob constructs the following query to download access tokens associated with the ISMR WAF role. So this is basically downloading the credentials for the IMA roles, and which is going to we can use that for in future to get more malicious stuff from this web server. We see we have a bunch of data here. Stealing the IMA role credentials. As expected, Bob's modified query to the security credentials ISRM WAF role returns endpoint returns the access key ID and secret access key tokens of capital 10's EC2 instance. Using the above access keys, Bob can now begin making programmatic calls to the AWS API with the privileges of the ISRM WAF role. So I guess this is the EC2 instance, the capital 10 EC2 instance. The keys and stuff like that. So I guess he can like maybe log into their machine or something like that. Bob opens a local terminal and configures the stolen AWS ISRM WAF role tokens on his laptop. Then he issues the following command using the AWS command line interface CLI utility to list all the S3 buckets on the Capital 10 server. Note, what is the AWS command line interface tool? So the AWS command line interface, AWS CLI, is an open source tool that enables authorized users to interact with AWS services using a command line and shell. So we already configured this already here, but basically what it's doing is just exporting the AWS access key to this and just all the stuff here. So here we can just copy this and just paste this, and here we can just click next. I'm pretty sure that's it. So but we listed all of the we listed some high sensitive data, I guess, from the cloud. I don't really know this. I don't really know AWS that much, but I guess this is some really high information data. Could be some like servers, I guess, and stuff like that. So last of all, we can talk about the mitigation. How do you prevent from SSRF? So how do you prevent your website from SSRF attacks, stuff like that? So implementing a firewall policies about what the host running application are able to connect to is really good, because say if you if you implement a firewall policies, so basically your web application can only reach out to your S3 bucket, and it can't reach out to any third-party web services, because that is a major SSRF attack. And also to whitelist domains that your app uses. So maybe like, say if there's like any like you use a third party, maybe whitelist that, stuff like that, and that your app uses. Sanitize and validate the inputs. So always sanitize and validate the user inputs. So if you do see it is going to a third party app, third party web service, stuff like that, just say like an error returned, cannot go to this, something like that. And those are like the three main ways to I guess to mitigate this attack, the SSRF attack. I think that should be it. Hopefully you guys have learned what an SSRF attack is and stuff like that. This is going to be my last video of 2021, because I'm taking a holiday and taking a break. So yep, so hopefully you guys understood, and also check out my portfolio. I will link it in the description down below, and also we'll do the blog of the blog, and see you guys next time. Peace.